What makes us exponential in what we do is our ability to learn, our ability to observe and to improve every single day. So an hour spent today can be 10 hours tomorrow and 100 hours the next day. And with that philosophy, that's how I approach my work. And we focus on three areas. So there's design services, where I provide branding, communications, web setup for startup projects and for organizations. Basically making things look pretty and sound nice. Then the second part is what I call startup acceleration. And I team up with entrepreneurs and startups that I really believe in. And I become a temporary co-founder for about 6 to 9 months. And I help them raise investment, build their team, launch their product, everything that it takes to get them to that next level, to kind of ride that exponential wave. And for that I take a small piece of equity, and I only charge the startup when they can afford it. And the third piece is really what I call out-of-the-box digital engagement. And I focus this work mainly in the education and training space, but fundamentally it's about the question, how do we leverage online digital tools to drive engagement across our community of stakeholders? And that's a question every business should be asking. How do we leverage new digital technologies and the networks that we're now all a part of to do things better, to do things faster, cheaper, more effective, and ultimately make an impact? So that particular piece is very exciting, and we're focusing very much in the education space. But more broadly, I think that type of service is applicable across a wide range of industries. Because ultimately the success of any organization is dependent on its ability to learn and to share knowledge and to optimize knowledge. So when I think of impact, I always try and bring it back down to one person. And no business can help everybody, and no business can do everything. So if we had to choose and we had to pick one person that we were going to serve completely, and who would that person be, and how would you help them? And for me, I use a very good friend of mine, Juan, who was one of the first entrepreneurs that I worked with after I started Exponentials, as a metaphor for this one person. It's somebody who has an idea and a mission and a cause and wants to come up with a business solution to a big problem that we face. And what I want to do is I want to help serve, accelerate, support those types of people who have an idea, want to make a contribution, have their values in the right place, and to help them really scale and go to that next level. One of the things that me and Juan talked about several times is this idea of perfect competition, and that our role of entrepreneurs, first and foremost, is to make the markets that we operate in better. We participate in the market and we push it forward. And hopefully by doing that, whether we win or we lose, things will get better. Which is why you don't get so precious with your ideas, because it's not about dominating, it's actually about being as open as possible. Because you'll get it right this time, I'll learn from you, then I'll get it right, and you'll learn from me. And together, through competition, we actually work towards the highest possible value. And the way that I see things is there's two issues here. The first issue is the world is changing faster than ever. And this is partly driven by technology, partly also driven by growth in population. There's more minds out there, there's more innovators, there's more creators. There are more of us to invent and adapt and change things. And we've got tools now that enable us to self-organize, communicate, learn faster than ever before. So the world is moving almost exponentially. However, the academic institutions designed many decades, even centuries before, are not designed for exponential growth. They're designed to move in a linear way. They have a whole administrative burden and way of doing things that make it make it very difficult for them to innovate, for them to change, for them to move, for them to disrupt. Because the second they do anything that is even a little bit on the side of innovation or on the edge, suddenly they have an onslaught of angry faculty, or faculty that are wondering, well, what does this mean for our jobs? What does this mean for our knowledge? So they have to deal with a political minefield that prevents them from doing anything quickly, like adopting new technology, like launching innovative courses, like open sourcing their IP. All things that they need to do in order to keep relevant in the world. However, it's a challenge because they are designed to move in a certain way, but that is no longer fit for purpose. So it's going to be tough. And a great report by Pearson is the avalanche is coming. And a lot of these institutions won't survive. And it's my thinking that actually there's a huge opportunity for a business, and this is part of the strategy of Exponentials, to take these institutions on a journey, to get them to really understand all of the things that are happening on the edges of education and learning in the big bad world. To draw from the lessons of EdTech, to draw from the lessons of how organizations learn, and bring that back in, and try and identify new business models moving forward, new approaches to content, new approaches to community and curation, and reposition their role within the space of learning. And that is not just about launching a platform. It's also about understanding the politics and the complexity that lies with culture change, that lies with transitioning from one business model, which is about selling courses, to another, which is about building community and enabling real-world action. Then we come down to another interesting question within the higher ed space, which is curriculum. And before, it was very, very simple. You got a bunch of experts together, they work for 6 months to a year to create a world-class curriculum. And then they launch it, and they sell the course, and they advertise the fact that the greatest minds around created this curriculum. And people apply, pay lots of money, and then they recycle that course year in, year out. 1 year, fantastic, students go through, delete, start again. And they assess it in the same ways, with the same exams, with the same books, everything the same, every single year. Now that could have worked before when things were changing in a linear way. You could have a 10-year cycle for your curriculum, right? You design it, then you sell it as much as you can for 10 years with a few tweaks, and then you create another one, and it pays back. Now, the curriculum almost goes out of date the second you publish it. So we need to completely rethink the concept of a course. People don't want to follow a set path for them. They want guidelines. And curriculum should be emergent. And this means that what you do is, rather than spending 6 months to a year creating curriculum, you spend 3 weeks to a month creating curriculum. And you launch it. And you launch it in a way which is a springboard for students to continue their own investigations, rather than effectively a boot camp, a drill, where everything is pre-programmed, predetermined, and you just measure and assess along the way. And that mindset is a huge mindset to change, because it basically means that you cannot sell qualifications anymore. Because the whole business of education is about accrediting, having qualifications and selling qualifications with a branded institution. And that's what you can charge lots of money for. But instead, if you can't accredit, if you can't sell a qualification, then what are you paying for? You can't justify such a high price tag. Of course you can't. So therefore you need to get much leaner. You need to really focus on the value you can bring in order to learners' lives, and to cut your costs drastically, and to rethink how you manage knowledge, which isn't we get a few experts that we pay ridiculous amounts of money for to curate and write and then push that knowledge onto people. Instead, you think in terms of being curated. You tap into little nuggets of knowledge, you curate it, you bring it together, and that becomes a starting point for a diverse community of people to go and engage with that content in many different ways. So when we move from a course mindset to a community mindset, when we move from kind of a mindset where you build curriculum and then basically assess it all the way through. Instead, you say, we're going to build curriculum and we're going to evolve it every single month, every single year, so that the feedback, the learning and the work of the first year becomes the foundation for the work of the second year and the third year and the fourth year and the fifth year. Suddenly you build legacy and you build resilience into into your institution. And those are some of the key concepts that are missing from higher ed. And then there's the other component, which is what the hell do you do with digital? How do you begin to manage all of this, all these conversations, all of this stuff, all of this content? And this is a problem that every large organization faces, with multiple stakeholders interacting. Whether it's community groups, whether it's big businesses that work across countries, whether it's alumni networks and schools. And this is why you need a peer-to-peer knowledge management system, where not only do you make it easy for everyone in the community to communicate with each other, to find each other. So making peer-to-peer connectivity really easy. And then it's about knowledge sharing, but actually curation. So making it possible for anyone to upload files, share articles, and basically partake in the content curation process. And this is at the heart of what Genesis is about. Create a profile, create pages, share pages, message people. It's really simple. Create pages, share pages, message people. That's all that really any website ever does. Create pages, share pages, message people. Yeah. And yet it gets overly complicated with Moodles and Canvases and hundreds of thousands of pounds spent on convoluted systems that are unnecessary, based on the premise of controlling and assessing and quizzing students all the way through their journey, rather than just letting them at really useful stuff and enabling more exciting interactions such as virtual conferences and meetups and conversational dinners and all of these things. So there needs to be a shift towards open learning. There needs to be a complete rethink over the business model of education and what you sell. And what you sell isn't a course anymore. It needs to be something else. Think in terms of selling lifelong membership to a community. Think in terms of selling value-added services, bespoke courses, and in particular coaching, which is this notion of one-to-one time. And when that is missing, you're effectively you're limiting your ability to really personalize content and personalize the experience, which is really what matters. So if I had to distill what makes education great, it would be three things. The first is about curation. So building a dynamic body of knowledge that you found from your own experience, online, from conversations with experts and mentors, and gathering together and presenting it in an engaging and interactive way, and allowing people to add to that content for it to evolve and grow over time. So it's the modern day library as we see it. The second part is coaching and accountability, and that's having one-to-one time with someone that can not only guide you through your own learning journey, but can also hold you accountable to your own goals. Because it's that accountability and that one-to-one relationship with someone that's going to stretch you and push you to the limit that really makes you go beyond your comfort zone, and that's vital. And the third final part is the social piece, which is really hosting and facilitating epic events that get people excited, and that also build strong bonds between your classmates, between your mentors, between peers and fellows. And getting those events right in memorable locations, doing exciting group challenges, hiking, being outside, is effectively building friendships, is essential, because actually a lot of the learning that you're going to get is from those peer-to-peer relationships with your learners. And if you can get the dynamic curation, coaching accountability, and the social bits right, then you have a lasting, impactful learning experience. And believe it or not, that's actually really cheap to do, because content is becoming ubiquitous and accessible to all. It's never been easier for people to connect via Skype and have one-to-one coaching time. And events, well, you don't need to host a building. You can use Airbnb and rent out a castle, or find a pop-up location on some island somewhere, or do whatever you like. And actually we can leverage technology and digital to basically bring together the best of learning and package it up for really affordable price points. And this is where the exciting part of where education is heading. No more big flashy buildings, no more ego-driven expensive professors. Actually, just a complete focus on the end user, which is the learner, or the participant, or the entrepreneur, which I think is a good way to go. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about specifically are three projects, or three big crazy ideas that I have. The first is the one that I'm most pursuing right now, which is called Lisa. And it was born out of the question, how do I personally make the biggest impact that I can, or contribution that I can, with my time? Because time is one of those things that you cannot scale. We all get the same amount of time, and I also like to get my 8 hours of sleep, so that's also not an option. So my approach to this question was, if I develop a habit where I always curate, remix, document and share the best knowledge, expertise and ideas that I find, then hopefully those processes and those tips and tricks can then be used by many more people. And so one of the things that I try and do is really think through my own curation process. How do I manage the information in my life that I get from the conversations that I have, the things I read, the things I find online? And how do I bring that together, organize it and present it so that the next person that takes that information can grab it, understand it and make use of it in a much shorter space of time. And if that curation process becomes a philosophy and a habit, so I do it almost without thinking, then it will become a very great way for me to continue to leverage digital and design to make an impact. And what's interesting about this too is not only am I doing this myself, but actually what I can do is use the technology that we've built for other clients, our peer-to-peer learning technology and digital engagement technology, to launch a platform of our own, which is called lisalearn.com. And the philosophy of Lisa Learn is to curate high quality open learning content for entrepreneurs. Anyone who's starting a business or a venture or a project within their own company and wants to avoid some of the mistakes and also make use of some of the tips and tricks that are out there. This is a great place that you can go for information. And this isn't just your kind of trivial blog article about kind of how to start a business and your business model canvas and whatever. This is really tangible, practical advice that goes into the detail of every stage of the startup journey. So we've started by curating 5 masterclasses. The first is Mastery Mindset, which is all about the process of learning. So it's about developing really smart systems and processes and habits for yourself so that you can build skills quickly, so that you can adapt and change and grow together. There's three kind of key factors that I think are essential to growing startups. One is resilience, the other is adaptability, and the third one is leadership. I believe that lean startup methodologies really explain the resilience, to measure, to be data-driven, to not build things before you've really proven that the market wants to pay for them, and to have a very logical and rigorous approach to measurement, to data, and to learning from your market and from your users. However, you also need to be adaptable, and this is where networking and creativity come in. And that's a very important part of design thinking. It's being able to think outside of the box and to be able to spot opportunities where others would miss them. So the left brain and the right brain working together. However, it's not okay just to have those two. You also need leadership, which I believe is building a culture within your team of resilience and adaptability. And that means actually really becoming a master of these two processes, the lean startup and design thinking, and teaching that to everyone that you work with, so that you develop a culture where everyone is being lean and thinking creatively. So that's an important element. So naturally another masterclass that we have is design thinking in a lean startup, which is very much based around tangible workshopping techniques and creative thinking processes, and also I guess case studies that you can draw from to make sure that you're continuously moving in the right direction and making the most use of the resources you have. You know, ultimately, design thinking and lean startup are about making it possible to do a lot more with a lot less. Third masterclass that I'm very excited about, that's close to my heart, is how to make anything online fast. And at the heart of this is this notion that you don't need to be a coder and you don't need to be technical in order to leverage the web and to build all the content you could ever want on the web. So in this masterclass, in 10 minutes, we give you a crash course in everything you need to know about Photoshop and Illustrator, so that you and with ready-made or ready-to-go files that you can start using straight away. We also show you how to create a pitch deck with also ready-to-go keynotes around how to make something look beautiful in a presentation, both when you're presenting in person, but also when you're sending PDFs via email. We show you how to make your own animations, so that you don't have to pay lots of money to animators and graphic designers. You can do it all yourself with a couple of purchases off Amazon. We also show you how to prototype your platforms and products using free online tools, because you don't actually need to build anything. You can make your sale, you can get your user feedback, you can do pretty much everything just through design and